Very powerful lesson. This one is about compassion. It comes from our lead national correspondent. That would be the one and only David Begnaud. His story focuses on a man named David. His last name is Breaux, in the university town of Davis, California. Breaux dedicated his life to studying compassion, and he even started a conversation about it with just about anybody who dared to answer on a downtown street corner. David Begnaud shows us how the simple act and David Breaux's longtime dedication to selflessness had a profound effect on his community.
There is this bench in downtown Davis, California, hardly recognizable under the flowers and remembrances, for a man who often stood here or sat here and asked a pretty simple yet intriguing question.
And the question was, what is compassion?
Jerry Pays was at first taken aback by being asked that on a street corner by a complete stranger.
And so you're thinking he's looking for the dictionary term, or he's looking for a definition.
One of the most common concepts and at the core of compassion is to make sure that it is extended.
Day after day, month after month, for 14 years, to anyone who passed by, David Breaux would gently ask, "What is compassion?"
It's nice to be around someone who wanted to focus on something more real, more philosophical, more something that touches people's hearts. And that's what David did.
And decided to spend a significant amount of time and energy directed towards a selflessness for the rest of my life. And that was June 3rd, 2009.
He was actively holding me accountable to be a compassionate mayor, to be a compassionate person, to listen.
Rob Davis was the mayor here from 2016 to 2018.
Well, I wanted you to know that David made a huge impact on this town.
Why did you choose him to swear you in as mayor?
I chose him because I wanted to reinforce the idea that the values that were guiding me were the values of healing and reconciliation within our community.
Stand at the corner of C and 3rd, and I have a pen and a notepad, and I ask people to share their written concept of the word compassion.
And they did. More than 11,000 people shared their thoughts in his notebooks.
That is page after page after page. Just 1 year filled up a whole book of people's reflections on that.
Did you ever ask him why?
I think he believed that someone had to do it. It was the key question that was going to guide humanity forward to move beyond discord and war and, and hatred. It was the question. He needed to ask it.
This is his notebook.
I found one of the notebooks at what has become known as the Compassion Bench, built and paid for by the community that embraced him. There were times, too, when he would take his message on the road.
There is something ingrained in every single human being that enables him or her to be compassionate.
I always thought of him as a monk. He had a Stanford degree. He wasn't a dummy. He was a smart guy. But he chose to live the way he lived, humbly. And I offered him many, many things. And the only thing that he took major for me one time is I gave him a key to my salon so he could come in and use the bathroom.
In Davis, he was a street therapist. They called him the Compassion Guy.
I feel in my heart that his mission is what we need and what the world needs.
But one day in April, this gentle man met a violent end. He was stabbed to death, a victim of an alleged stabbing spree that left a shocked city in grief.
We do not leave this place with a memorial in mind, but we leave this place with a commitment to act in the ways that David would have wanted us to act.
Unfortunately, this happened, but it also excelled his mission by tenfold.
For the 400 people or more that came out to see him, they were touched by that. They knew that he had brought to this community important questions about what we really wanted in the world, what we wanted to be, what we wanted to see.
And suddenly the people of Davis, California faced another question. How do we respond to this? The answer came from David Breaux himself through his sister, Maria Breaux.
The message that he left for me, it was in 2016, and I had forgotten it. And he said, if I am ever harmed and unable to speak for myself, forgive the perpetrator and help others forgive that person.
Yeah, it's classic David, right? You need to forgive them. He believed in that. What he said to his sister about forgiving, he meant that. He really genuinely did. He could not hold a bad thought against someone. He wanted the opportunity for relationships to be restored.
David Breaux reached that way of thinking the hard way.
He went through a pretty dark period in his life. Our mom passed away in 1997, and my dad asked him to come back home and take care of him. Our family life was very difficult. And my dad was physically and emotionally abusive to my mom. And we grew up not liking him very much. But then when he asked David to come home, David did that right after college and started developing a relationship with him and seeing him as someone who is aging, becoming more frail, and started recognizing him as a human being. From knowing him for 50 years, I wasn't surprised when he forgave my father. It made sense to me.
As many people still consider what comes next, they must face the legacy that David Breaux left them.
And you know, I didn't really learn what it was until he died. And then I realized during the vigil is when I finally learned. I'm like, because he was asking everybody, what is compassion? But eventually, I think what he was doing was a call to action.
So, Jerry.
Yeah.
What is compassion?
If I see you're cold, if I see you're hungry, or you're hurting, those are opportunities for me to be compassionate, to be kind, to be gentle, to be loving, to be present.
For Maria Breaux, she has the words her brother left her to live by.
I was like, okay, now I know what I have to do. And I have to have forgiveness in my heart. And I have to help others, not force others, not, shame others into that, but anyone who needs help with finding forgiveness, then I'm here for them.
So many of the words that filled David Breaux's notebooks have been published. And about that one word, compassion, it comes from the Latin meaning to suffer with, to feel the pain of others. And from the man who spoke that word so often from this bench comes this challenge: to put that word into action, to not only feel our neighbor's pain, but to do what we can to ease it, because that is the power of compassion.
David Begnaud, we need more David Breaux in this world.
Yes.
I so struggle with stories like this, how he is so able to be so compassionate and is preaching compassion and to die the way he did and predicting in 2016, if something happens to me, please have compassion and forgiveness. I know I struggle myself with forgiving people who haven't done half as much as what happened to him. I marvel at human beings like that.
You know, Gayle, David once introduced himself by saying, I am David Breaux and I bring awareness to compassion. And I thought, in a world where we seek such grandiosity and big impacts that we think are going to make a big difference, David Breaux lived such a simple life, yet made an extraordinary impact. Here we are honoring him, not because of how he died, but because of how he lived, doing the same repetitive, generous thing.
I know, I hear you, but I'm so jarred by the way he died. A man who preaches compassion dies so violently by just clearly being in the wrong place at the wrong time with someone who must have been out of his mind.
Yeah, you know, and David is spot on. It's beautiful how his quiet spirit is living so loudly after he is gone, and that's something we can all cling on to. We hope that we leave footprints big enough that other people can walk in compassionately.
Definitely added to the net amount of compassion in the world. And David, you do as well. Thank you again very much for bringing that story to us.